us here, also seeing significant damage as well. They had about 7 to 10 inches. But the way that the topography is for the Texas Hill Country, it all flows down into the Guadalupe so fast. We call it a high drainage density. And that led to the rapid water rise of up to 30 feet in some areas. Honestly, it kind of feels like I'm standing in an open basin, a large crater that at one point just housed a lovely river that I used to vacation at with my friends and family. And now you can see, I mean, even on those trees just beyond the way, there's large pieces of debris. They could be anything from RVs. Where we're standing now is an RV park called Guadalupe Keys. And you can see that. Also pieces of canoes, kayaks, a big thing is tubing down the river, so tubes there. And really, this landscape has been completely changed. In talking to a lot of the residents, the owners here, specifically David, who owns this property, he said that we don't want the money for our RV park. We want it to repopulate all of the trees around the area. I mean, it is a pride of Texas to have that here. Really unfortunate what happened over the last 4 days. A long way to go in this recovery. You mentioned Greg Abbott. He's taking a survey of the area right now, and he'll speak. President Trump is coming down by the end of the week to survey and also give his remarks. Truly, the whole nation and Texans as a whole are all coming together to put back what once was a safe haven for so many people. But also in talking to folks that used to vacation down here, they've told me that although this happened, and yes, it was scary, it was horrific, it's not going to deter them from coming back to the Texas Hill Country because of the memories that they make as a family and as a community. So it really has been heartbreaking here, but also a story of resilience. Stephanie, back to you.
No, absolutely. And the way that your photographer was panning as you were sharing and explaining the details, the imagery is just so incredibly powerful and heartbreaking. You know, we appreciate you sharing all of those details. And as you mentioned, it's devastating, but the resilience of the people there, this is a story about humanity right here. And Haley, we appreciate you taking the time to explain it all to us.
Definitely.
And I did want to give you this live look right here. This is another vantage point of this area. As Haley mentioned, and we brought to you live, Texas Governor Greg Abbott right now is surveying in a helicopter some of these areas that have been incredibly hard hit. We are expecting to hear from him later on today. He's going to be getting a briefing as well, and then communicating all of that during his news conference that is scheduled to start at around 6 p.m. Eastern time. Now, before this briefing, he is going to be participating in that aerial tour, as we mentioned. This is specifically also going to be accompanied by a visit to Camp Mystic. As we were hearing from Haley right there, a number of campers remain missing at this hour. So Governor Abbott is also going to be visiting Camp Mystic there as well. And at this briefing, at this press conference, he is going to be joined by a number of other officials, including members from the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Texas Division of Emergency Management, as well as state and local officials right there. So we did want to share that with you. We were bringing you these live aerial looks from when Governor Abbott took off to survey the flood damage. We are also expecting to get some video from that aerial tour. It isn't live, but we are expecting to receive that playback, and we'll bring that to you as soon as we receive it, and then bring you that live briefing later on today from Governor Abbott. And we were also hearing from Haley there as well. This area bracing for potentially more rain, not to the capacity of what they saw over the July 4th weekend, but as the cleanup efforts,
Florida Live starts now.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. I want to let you know what we have coming up later in the show for you. Give you a live look right now at the Kia Center in downtown Orlando. It's been a big offseason for the Orlando Magic, and that continued last night with a contract extension for star Paolo Banchero. We're going to talk about what that means, what the Magic need from Paolo now, and what the state of the Orlando Magic is at this point in the offseason as we begin looking ahead to this upcoming season. A lot of excitement ahead for the Magic. We will break all that down coming up a little bit later in the show. It is a Playbook Tuesday where we speak with Politico Florida to check the pulse of Florida politics. The race for Florida, one of Florida's U.S. Senate seats, is beginning to shape up. Some interesting fundraising numbers that we'll have for that and how that race is kind of coming together. We'll talk about that with Kimberly Leonard from Politico Florida coming up in just a little bit. In our Tampa connection, we'll break down a medical milestone at a Tampa hospital. Absolutely incredible stuff. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit and have those details coming up again about 10 minutes or so in our Tampa connection. But we begin today with a couple of stories out of Flagler County that are getting our attention. We've had the chance today to speak with Flagler Sheriff Rick Staley about this. The doormat read, "Come back with a warrant," and investigators did. There was a 5-month-long undercover investigation that led to multiple arrests on drug-related charges. Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley spoke with Fox 35's Chris Lindsay about that, and also about an interesting case where detectives in Flagler County were able to return Bitcoin that had been scammed, someone had been scammed out of. A detective was able to track that down and get that money back to its rightful owner. Flagler Sheriff Rick Staley with Chris Lindsay just a little bit ago.
So at the conclusion of a 5-month undercover investigation, we obtained search warrants for 2 homes in Palm Coast. And the one home had a doormat said, "Come back with a warrant." So we did.
And when is that your first time kind of having that sort of encounter with a suspect where maybe they're alluding to some sort of illegal behavior, and then in your case you find out that perhaps they are?
So actually, in my eight and a half years as sheriff, this is the second similar doormat that we found that they suggested we come back with a warrant, and we did in both of those cases. So they probably thought it was funny. They're probably not laughing so much now that we did in fact raid their home and make arrests and recover drugs and narcotics out of it. So, tongue in cheek, they probably thought it was funny. Well, we did too, but we had the last laugh.
Certainly. And then you said this was a multi-man, and we had talked about this, that, and I just want you to reiterate this point really quickly about just because you may get away with it, so to speak, about dealing drugs for weeks or maybe even months, that doesn't mean that there aren't eyes out there and that you're working on the long game.
Correct. So, excuse me. So, we appreciate all the tips that we get from the community. They know exactly what's going on in their neighborhood and when something doesn't look right. And so that began an investigation that resulted in this arrest. So even though you may not think that we're taking, your information seriously, we always do. And we always want you to call us. It does take time to build a case that you can obtain a search warrant. Excuse me, that you can obtain it does take time for us to be able to build a case that we can get a judge and a court to then give us a search warrant for your home. And so, but we never give up. And you entice us, obviously, when you say come back with a warrant. So we did, along with our SWAT team and our undercover people. And we served the search warrant, recovered narcotics, fentanyl, methamphetamine, and made one arrest there that day, but other arrests were already in jail from this home.
Okay, yes. So the scam, returning the money to the scam victims, what happened there?
So about 2 years ago, we started a cyber crimes unit in the Sheriff's and Investigative Services Division because we're seeing more and more people become victims of fraud. And quite often, they want you to take your good, hard-earned money, turn it into crypto, put it in a crypto wallet, and then you never see it again, or whatever they promised never occurred. We see this in various ways. You have a warrant out for your arrest, you missed your subpoena to be a juror or court, and pay us in crypto or pay us in gift cards. So a couple of years ago, we started the cyber crimes unit within our Homeland Security section. And in fact, I just increased it with another detective. Just give me a second. Can you get her, Debbie? Sorry, my dog started acting up. I didn't think you wanted to hear that in the background.
No worries, no worries.
And so and then we also purchased software that helps us detect and track the wallets in the blockchains that cryptocurrency goes into. And so fortunately, these two cases, in one case, we were able to recover 100% of the money. In the other case, we were only able to recover a small amount of money. But ultimately, we were able to seize the cryptocurrency. Judge, through forfeiture proceedings, authorized us to take it. And then we turn it into legal tender, American US currency. And fortunately, I was able to return some of the money to the victims. This is the first time in the sheriff's office history that we have been able to seize cryptocurrency. But the message to our community is that your sheriff's office does have the capability to investigate these frauds and thefts that are perpetrated against you. But to be successful, you need to report it immediately. As soon as you realize you are being scammed, we need that information. We need to know what wallet it went to so that we can track the blockchain and do our best to recover your money. The longer you delay because you are embarrassed or a victim of a crime and fraud, and you don't want to report that you fell prey to one of their tactics, the harder it is for us to recover the money, because this money is moved from one wallet to another wallet in the cryptocurrency world, and eventually you're never going to get it back. So it's critical. The second most important thing is to prevent it in the first place, and do your best, learn how these scams work. If anybody is asking you to pay in crypto or paying gift cards, it's likely a scam, and don't fall for it. So prevent the crime first before it occurs.
And that's big. I know that you kind of alluded to, you're not, even if you do report it quickly, you're not always going to get all the money. But I guess, I know that they have to at least appreciate you guys getting some of it back.
Well, we feel bad for one of the victims who only got a tiny amount of money back for a variety of reasons. But, the key is that we have the capability to investigate it. And we don't want anybody to be a victim of crime. But if you do fall prey, because they are very convincing criminals, and many times they're in another country and they're using software, they're just somewhere, and we may not ever be able to make an arrest, but if you report it to us quick enough, then the likelihood of us being able to recover the money before it goes into the crypto world and never be seen again increases. And we've just had over the July 4th weekend, we've had 3 or 4 cases reported to us. One in which the victim did fall for it and lost some money, and 2 others that the victims reported that they attempted to. And so those are the ones that were reported. We know that there are other victims out there, very likely, that are out there that are embarrassed or for whatever reason they didn't report it. They didn't want to tell their kids, their spouse, whatever reason motivated them. So, really the message is we do have the capability and to give us the opportunity to try to recover your money. It's not going to be 100% every time, but we really have to know about it as soon as you realize that you are a victim. If you wait a week or 2 weeks, the likelihood of us recovering that money diminishes dramatically, because what they do is put it in one wallet and then they start moving it wallet to wallet to wallet. And as it moves, it triggers the less likelihood that we can prove that the money that's in wallet, 10 is actually the initial money that was stolen.
That's something you're hearing about more and more and more. So you certainly have to be careful when it comes to those kinds of. You have to have your antennas up, really, for those scammers in a lot of different ways now. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we will be right back with more after this. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is time now for our Tampa Connection, and for that we go to Fox 13 Tampa Bay, and reporter Ariel Placencia joining us today. And Ariel, we appreciate you joining us for our Tampa Connection.
Absolutely. Good to be here with you, Garrett.
So let's start with our first story here, and this is a security guard facing charges.
That's right. So we're learning more about a security guard who was working at an apartment complex. Now he's facing several charges of child porn, and we're learning more details through court documents. So according to the arrest affidavit, the security guard's company car was taken to a collision center to get work done on it. Well, while it was there, a company manager noticed a small camera in the vehicle and decided to check out the memory card on that device. Well, detectives say that's when the manager found several explicit videos of children and then called the police. Now, the manager told investigators the car was driven by Michael Wilson, an employee with the company Signal Security. According to court documents, Wilson worked security at the Brandywine Apartments here in Tampa. An apartment manager there told investigators that Wilson was, quote, spending several hours at a time in the bathroom where children are known to congregate. Now, it is unclear if the children are local, but investigators do tell us they were recorded with the camera, and detectives indicated Wilson appeared in at least one of those videos. Now, when it comes to cases like this, victims advocates say it is important for parents in that apartment complex to talk with their kids about whether they had any contact with that suspect.
Whether it's a security guard or somebody that is a sworn officer, that is a person of trust. And so we encourage our children to reach out to these trusted adults for help and support. And so when somebody in a position like that violates that trust, it can have a ripple effect for children across our community and for their parents as well.
Now, Michael Wilson was arrested on June 24th and charged with 10 counts of possession of child porn. Both Signal Security and Brandywine Apartments couldn't be reached for comment, but Garrett, we'll keep you posted on when we hear back.
All right, certainly disturbing allegations out of that case. Listen, our second story here in our Tampa connection, and this is pretty fascinating stuff, really a milestone when it comes to a medical procedure.
Yeah, this story is really, really cool. We're talking about a bloodless transplant done right here locally. As you said, medical milestone. Tampa General Hospital and USF Health just completed the world's first successful heart-liver transplant, but as I just said, it was bloodless. Surgeons at TGH and USF Health performed the groundbreaking procedure on Cesar Ale. He battled coronary artery and liver disease for 5 years before his transplant, and he spent the last 15 months or so on a transplant waiting list before the surgery. Now, Ale tells us that he couldn't receive blood transfusions because of religious reasons, so the surgeons teamed up to figure out another way to save his life. TGH says that the historic procedure expands access to medically complex transplants like this one for patients who are unable to receive blood products.
We do have a bloodless surgery program here at Tampa General Hospital that has been in existence for quite some time. And so that expertise is brought not only to transplant surgery, but also other forms of surgery here at TGH. And Dr. Catlaps is absolutely right. The advantages for patients when you minimize the utilization of blood are multifold.
Now, while the first bloodless single organ transplant was performed back in 1986, bloodless transplant surgery in general still isn't commonly available in most health systems. Now, as for Ale, his surgeons tell us he had a smooth recovery and that they believe he's going to live a normal life, Garrett, which is awesome news.
That is great news and absolutely incredible. I'll tell you what, the ingenuity of that medical team that said, okay, he can't take blood transfusions, we'll figure out a way to still get this done. I mean, that's absolutely incredible.
Absolutely.
Story number 3 here, and this is a little bit of a throwback when you're talking about Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, trip down memory lane, right? All those dreams of vintage games that you might have, they can come true right here in the Tampa Bay area. So it's a new concept from Chuck E. Cheese. It's called Chuck's Arcade, but it's all for grown-ups. It features classic games like Miss Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. The company says that Chuck's is where nostalgia meets the future. So each location is going to have branded apparel, collectible toys, retro products, novelty candy, prizes. What more could you want? And yes, there's one right here in the Tampa Bay area. You can check out Chuck's Arcade at Tyrone Square in St. Pete. It is one of only 10 in the whole country, which is pretty cool. But a piece of advice, eat before you go, because there's no food or drinks being sold there. Right now, the only location that has the classic Chuck E. Cheese pizza, that's in Kansas City. But Garrett, you never know, right? Maybe we speak it to existence. Maybe it'll come here to the Bay Area soon.
Yeah, I am sure you could definitely work up an appetite with all those games. I'll tell you what, I'd be the first to head for the skee ball.
Yeah, for sure. Pizza and prizes.
All right, sounds like a good time. Ariel Placencia, we appreciate you joining us for our Tampa Connection.
Thanks. Enjoy your day.
You too. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us here live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is Tuesday, and that means it's a Playbook Tuesday here on Florida Live, where we take the pulse of Florida politics with Politico Florida and the author of the Florida Playbook newsletter, Kimberly Leonard. Had the chance to speak with her just a little bit ago, and we touched on a number of topics, including Republicans fundraising off Alligator Alcatraz, Democrats targeting 3 Florida congressional seats, and the race for a Florida U.S. Senate seat beginning to shape up. Kimberly, let's start here. I know you had an interesting conversation with Josh Weil, who has announced a run for Senate.
Yeah, we sat down pretty recently. He was at the Leadership Blue event for Florida Democrats, really trying to get his name out there and gain support from, a lot of grassroots and donors and so forth. I asked him a little bit about what he was looking forward to if he were to be elected, who he kind of looked up to, and he mentioned, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, and both are pretty progressive, and Weil himself is progressive, which Republicans think that that's a win for them. Weil thinks it's a win for him, that he should not moderate his message, that he should continue to kind of talk about Medicare for all and go big, and have a lot of these proposals that are sort of unapologetically progressive. His campaign filed their earnings for the second quarter, and he had only been in the race like 13 days, so it wasn't very high. It was only 124,000. If you recall, he ran in a special election House race where he raised $14 million. So he's kind of hoping to be able to, at the very least, match that or go, far beyond it, maybe to even like 100 million. So it just gives us an early peek into how it's, sort of slowly taking off. It is mostly it is all grassroots donors, an average donation of $18. But there's going to be kind of a lot of, I think, pressure for him to really post a big number, at least by the next quarter.
And because we know he's going to be facing an uphill battle against Ashley Moody in that race.
Well, and potentially if someone else runs for Senate on the Democratic side, Alexander Vindman, who was the one who recorded that call between Zelensky and Trump, has mentioned that he's thinking about it. I haven't talked to him about it, but he's talked to several outlets to say that he's sort of keeping an eye on it. And so, anyone who wants to challenge a Republican, and the thing is, the default is for a Republican to win on all these seats, just because all these statewide seats, just because there are so many more Republican registered voters in Florida. But if you have the cash to sort of get your name out there, make a lot of noise, etc., perhaps you can make a play for some of those no party affiliated voters, some of the Republicans who might be a little sick of MAGA and Trumpism and so forth. At least that's, the pitch that a lot of Democrats make. So it's just a race that we're watching closely. He's the only major candidate to have declared so far. And Ashley Moody hasn't posted her finances yet, but she's not late. It's just that Weil was early. So I went ahead and reported those out today.
Now let's talk a little bit about the House and the campaign arm of the House Democrats, kind of with some interesting messaging surrounding the big, beautiful bill and several Florida seats that they're looking to flip.
Yeah, they're hoping to flip 3 seats. It's going to be a challenge because as I mentioned earlier, there's just, a lot behind Republicans right now, a lot of cash, a lot of voter registrations and so forth. And so they're looking at Corey Mills' seat, Anna Paulina Luna, and then Maria Elvira Salazar, who's down here in Miami. And they're hoping to flip those seats, but it's going to be difficult. And also what they've started doing is they've started messaging around the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which is the bill that Trump signed into law last week. So what they're saying is that essentially those people voted for the bill, which is true, and that it may result in rural hospitals closing. Now, first of all, we don't know whether that'll happen, and second of all, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. So what's happening is that Republicans, beginning after the midterms, by the way, are going to start requiring people on Medicaid who, are not disabled or who don't have young kids to work, or at least look for work at least 20 hours a week. And so the prediction is that a lot of people would no longer qualify for Medicaid, and so then they would be uninsured, and that's why then hospitals, would lose money because they'd be giving healthcare to people who can't afford to pay it back. The estimation nationally is 12 million, but the thing in Florida is we already have a very large uninsured population. So that means that our state won't be hit as hard as some of the other major states with a lot of people like New York and California. And it also is just that Medicaid in our state is already so limited to a lot of people who are very, very vulnerable. And so that just leaves, fewer people potentially without coverage because we already have a huge number. So but I would say it's a good way to gauge how Democrats are planning to message as they hope to make inroads in the House in looking at Florida, especially.
Meanwhile, on the Republican side, we're seeing a lot of fundraising off this alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah. So James Uthmeyer, who is the state attorney general, it was his idea, and he started selling, buttons and bumper stickers, T-shirts, hats. So they read something like "nowhere to go, nowhere to hide." I mean, this is something that Republicans really see as like a fundraising bonanza to them. I talked to folks over at the Republican Party of Florida yesterday, and they said that things are like flying off the shelf. They're selling T-shirts as well. Ron PAC, which is Restore Our Nation PAC, which is affiliated with Governor Ron DeSantis, also sent out an alligator Alcatraz fundraising text, as did Byron Donalds, who is running for governor. Was not involved in planning alligator Alcatraz or anything like that, but part of his county is in that area right on the line. So he was at the round table last week with President Trump. And, there are Republicans who privately tell me that they're sort of mortified by the whole thing, given the effect to the Everglades. It's a delicate ecosystem. There are endangered species there. And they also, just don't love how it looks. They worry about potentially major flooding happening. But if you just look at it politically, they think it's smart because otherwise they wouldn't be fundraising off of it.
Well, and with the president's visit, I would imagine, those are going to be some photo ops that we will likely continue to see.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it helped bring it. It was such a big deal that Trump left the day that the Senate left Washington, the day the Senate was passing the big, beautiful bill to go ahead and tour the facility. So he sees it as a win for sure.
So what's next in Florida politics? What do we need to keep an eye on, Kimberly?
Well, I think from here on out, Uthmeyer is someone to watch closely. I've been talking to a lot of people sort of in his inner circle recently. He clearly would like a Trump endorsement, and I think that last week went a very long way to getting him there. It kind of depends who else is running. But, let's not forget, Uthmeyer ran the presidential campaign that Governor DeSantis had to try to, be the nominee instead of Trump. But Trump seemed to say bygones are bygones. Last week, he called Uthmeyer good looking. He said he had a bright future. And so I know that it was very encouraging to those who are in Uthmeyer's corner. They think that he, potentially could get that endorsement. And already, I mean, he's only been in the office since February. And so already he's made, national news and gotten a big splash out there, created something that other Republicans, national Republicans can fundraise off of. And so that kind of thing really just gets you a lot of attention. But the golden ticket, as a lot of people see it, is a Trump endorsement. Yeah, so final fundraising numbers should be out later this week on the 10th. Looking at how much the Republican Party of Florida, the Florida Democratic Party, and candidates for the legislature, how much they've been fundraising for jobs like chief financial officer, state attorney general, all that. So I'll be digging through those numbers later this week.
All right, something to look forward to. Kimberly Leonard, Politico reporter and author of the Florida Playbook. We appreciate you joining us on Florida Live.
Thanks so much.
And give you a live look right now at the White House in Washington, D.C. President Trump met with his cabinet just a little bit ago. We had that meeting for you live streaming here on Fox Local. Keep it right here. We still have more Florida Live to come, so we'll be right back on Fox Local and on YouTube. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. You may have seen some fireworks shows on last Friday, July 4th, day where a lot of folks celebrate with those fireworks, but hopefully you didn't see them in the middle of an intersection. That's what happened in Orange County, according to investigators, where they've now arrested 4 people so far in a street takeover that happened July 4th in Orange County. They say more than 24 cars were involved in this, and some of them were even shooting fireworks out their car windows. Just wait till you see some of this video. Fox 35's Marie Ettinger had the chance to speak with Lieutenant Tara Crescenzi from Florida Highway Patrol about this incident and why it's so dangerous.
So on the 4th of July, this group decided to have an organized street takeover event, which we were able to gather intel from our intelligence analysts, but also social media. We worked in tandem with the Orange County Sheriff's Office and provided our assets and resources to the areas that were known that they were going to be going to. And we also used our aviation asset, which was a huge part of this case. So the message to these people that are involved, that are spectating or involved in these incidents, just know you might not see that cop right next to you, might not see that cop following you, but we got eyes on you and we are going to get you stopped, and then you're going to have to spend the night in jail.
Can people get in trouble even just for attending these things?
Absolutely. These spectators, not only was it extremely dangerous to be just standing around that vehicle that is doing donuts in the intersection and shooting off fireworks, but you could also get a $400 fine just for being there. So it is illegal to be filming it, to be standing there watching it, or be a passenger in one of these vehicles.
What's that like for you guys when you've dedicated your career to try to keep people safe on the roads, and then when you see somebody, this is not minor, this was planned, like they knew ahead of time that they were going to do this dangerous thing. What is that like for you guys?
It's just a recipe for disaster. They know this isn't the right thing to do. They know that this is extremely dangerous behavior. You're mixing donuts in an intersection, fireworks, and alcohol, all while people are standing around. You know that that is a recipe for disaster, and it has consequences.
That's like one small slip, and now you've got a crowd of injuries or potential fatalities.
Or even first responders trying to get to that scene. If you're blocking these intersections and we can't get EMS, that could be somebody's life that's on the line.
Is there a problem with the sideshows around here?
So the street takeover incidents, we have seen them in recent time, but we have been working hard with our law enforcement partners, especially with the Sheriff's Office, Orange County, and Orlando Police Department. So we gather intel between our agencies, and then we go ahead and go to these locations to stop these behaviors.
Yeah, pretty wild to see that video, and especially some of the technology they use, where you can really see what appears to be those people hanging out the windows, shooting off those fireworks while doing donuts in the middle of that intersection. Certainly a serious incident. And again, the original report was that 2 people had been arrested. We've learned now that 2 more people have been arrested, and there could certainly be more charges and arrests on the way. Well, we're going to take a quick break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Florida Live, and here is a live look at Kia Center, home of the Orlando Magic in downtown Orlando. Their big offseason continued with more news last night of signing star Paolo Banchero to an extension, 5-year max rookie deal. Big deal for this Orlando Magic team. And joining us live now to talk about all this is independent reporter Sean Green. Sean, always good talking with you. We appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live.
Good to talk to you, Garrett. I appreciate it.
First, let me get your kind of initial thoughts to this big news. And we've had a lot of news lately from the Magic. What do you make of this deal for Paolo?
Yeah, it was the one thing that we all expected. Nobody in the NBA, nobody around the Magic expected otherwise. Obviously, Paolo Banchero gets the max rookie extension. He's proven to be one of the top 15 best players in the NBA. And I think this extension shows that. But now the Magic have a lot of money on the books for 4 players. So he's earned it. He deserves it. And like he said last night, it's time to go win a championship. So it's an exciting time for the Magic to lock up their core for the next 5 years.
There is something in this deal that we have not seen very often. It's been a few years since we've seen it, and that is a player option, the first for a rookie max contract since 2021. What do you think of that, and is that a good idea?
I mean, it's a good idea for Paolo. And again, with the type of player that he is, I think he's earned the right and the opportunity to have a player option after that 4th year. I think Magic fans are going to get a little PTSD and a little nervous about it, and as they should. I get it. But I think that's more so for Paolo to earn as much money as humanly possible. There's a chance that in that player option, he can decline that player option and renegotiate his deal for even more money. So listen, it's a long ways away. We're about 5 years away from that player option even being a thing. But yes, this just shows you the type of player that Paolo is, because not every player since 2021 with Luka Doncic and Trae Young has gotten the player option after their 4th year.
But you did mention that the with this now, really the Magic have kind of locked in their core. So what do we need to see from this core now that that they're kind of taking this step and saying, hey, this is our chance, this is our window?
You just said it. It's the window. They just announced to the NBA. They really announced to the NBA when they made the Desmond Bane trade that this is the window. We are going for it. We are going to try and compete for championships now. So they announced that a couple weeks ago. But it becomes more real when you realize you're paying Paolo a max extension. You're paying Franz Wagner a max extension that kicks in this year. You paid Jalen Suggs a 5-year deal that was worth about $150 million. Now you got Desmond Bane on the books. That is the core. And this core needs to prove, especially this next season, that they are legit contenders in the Eastern Conference and competing for championships. I think everybody in the NBA believes that this core can do it because it's very talented. They play defense, and with the addition of Desmond Bane, the offense should not be as big of an issue. But when you have, again, 4 players making 93% of your team salary cap, that is telling the world and telling the NBA that you mean business and you are competing for a championship.
To that end, Sean, is there something more we need to see from some of these players, whether it's Paolo, whether it's Franz, whether it's maybe Jalen Suggs, anything more that we need to see from them now that that this is the window, that they are going to be in this win now mode?
So you bring up an interesting conversation. I don't know if it's necessarily more. Paolo, he averaged almost 26 points per game last year. Franz averaged 24, 25 points per game. I think they need to continue to elevate their play. If they stick around that, I think the Magic will be fine. I think the big question is Jalen Suggs coming back from injury. Can he kind of pick up where he left off during that playoff run a couple years ago and really hit the ground running? Is his shot is the same? Is he going to be as good as he was? And then the big question is going to be Desmond Bane. How seamlessly does he fit into this offense, right? Does he, open more opportunities up for Paolo and Franz? I think that's what a lot of people are expecting to happen. So I don't think it's necessarily elevating their play. I think we all expect them to elevate. It's more so, how does it all mesh together and how do they individually kind of go together, but also come together as a unit?
Interesting, recent free agent acquisition of Tyus Jones, and I know there's been conversation about his kind of previous relationship with Desmond Bain. Do you think something like that could help when it comes to them fitting in with the core of this team that has been in place?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Tyus Jones is a journeyman in the NBA. He's one of the, best point guards when it comes to assist to turnover ratio in the league for the last 6 years. And I do think that relationship with Desmond Bain when he was in Memphis is definitely going to help kind of integrate with the team. When you bring in a different free agent that maybe hasn't had as many opportunities to formulate bonds with the players, and it's, again, KCP last year. He knew nobody on the team, so you have to come in kind of cold turkey. I think him knowing Desmond Bain is definitely going to help that. But also, I think Tyus Jones in general as a player is going to help the team as a whole. We've talked about getting Paolo and Franz more opportunities, better looks, not having to take care of everything and have everything on their shoulders. Tyus Jones, most likely coming off the bench, is going to help that extremely well. He's going to be able to really run this offense and get everybody into the correct spots, get everybody open looks. So getting him is definitely going to help Desmond Bain kind of get more integrated with the team in that relationship. But him as a point guard and a facilitator is going to do wonders for the Magic.
Let's talk draft picks, because we saw last year Tristan da Silva drafted in the first round and played meaningful minutes for the Magic this past year, has certainly had an impact on the court. What do you expect to see from Jace Richardson and Noah Pinda this year?
If I'm being honest, not much. I'm not expecting them to play very much this upcoming season. You talked about Tristan da Silva. Tristan da Silva was almost having to get thrust into the role that he was because Paolo got hurt with the first 5 games. Then Franz got hurt shortly after that. So it was almost out of necessity that Tristan da Silva had to see minutes. I think when you see a Tyus Jones signing, Jace Richardson is the guy that is going to be behind Tyus Jones. I think it's a perfect opportunity for Jace Richardson to sit for a year and learn behind a guy like Tyus Jones. Noah Penda, kind of the same thing, right? It's more of a Jonathan Isaac is still here. Jonathan Isaac most likely is going to get minutes at that 4 position. So it's an opportunity for Noah Penda to learn. Now, granted, injuries happen, and I think this is where these draft picks can come in crucial. If Jalen Suggs goes down or Desmond Bain goes down, which there's a chance they miss about 10 to 15 games. That's what their career kind of says, that they miss about 10 to 15 games. A guy like Jace Richardson, a guy like Noah Penda are going to come in very big.
Probably a good sign for the Magic if they don't end up playing, if those draft picks don't end up playing a whole lot this year.
Yeah, that's obviously the goal. The goal is to have them sit and really learn, because if they're sitting and learning, then the Magic are developing the right way. They're not in the development business anymore. They were for a long time. They are in the win now business. So that is, we're not trying to play 19-year-old, rookies. We're trying to play guys that are in the win now business.
So what's the expectation for this team, Sean? Lay it out for us.
I mean, the expectation needs to be to go win a championship. I know that's kind of crazy to say, given they've been first-round exits in the last 2 years. But at the end of the day, the Magic are going to be a second apron team next summer. They are going to be in that second apron. That means you are competing for championships, and you need to be competing for championships. The Magic have made all the moves they needed to make this summer to set themselves up for the next 5 years. Now, with that being said, there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to need to be seen in the next couple years. You get Mo Wagner on a cheap deal, you're probably not going to be able to afford that next year. You've got a lot of bench players that are going to need to get paid. That, again, when 4 guys are making 93% of your cap, you're not going to be able to afford to pay them. So the Magic are going to need to get fancy, but they're going to need to get fancy winning championships if they want to really sell to people that this core is worth it.
High expectations, a busy offseason, and a new look even to boot. So exciting times. So looking ahead to this upcoming Magic season. Independent reporter Sean Green, always good talking with you, and thanks for joining us this afternoon.
You as well, Garrett. Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. We're just a couple of days away now from the official launch of EA Sports College Football 26. You may have early access to it if you pre-ordered it and did the bundle with Madden. It's interesting to note that both of those games are developed by EA Sports and made right here at their location in downtown Orlando. And Fox 35 had the chance to speak with some of the developers, the heads of the company, about following up on the return of college football video game and some of the improvements made to this year's game. Here is Rob Jones. He's the executive design director with EA Sports American Football. Check it out.
I just shipped College Football 26.
So is that your primary focus is college football and college football 26?
Going forward, it'll be both. Okay. But last year and the year before, I was one of the primary people responsible for bringing back the college football franchise.
Well, last year, obviously a huge day. Today is sophomore year. What's kind of running through your mind? You nervous? You excited? What do you think?
It's a little bit like calm before the storm. Like the game came out here at noon right now. A lot less hectic than it was last year. Last year, there was so much nervous energy in that room. And this year, a lot of people are calmer, which means that, one, we executed a little bit better. But two, we kind of already know what our players are expecting from us. And so it's really the excitement of seeing people get into the games, start playing, and then seeing if anything crops up that we might want to adjust.
What is your favorite aspect of the new College Football 26?
So many. For one thing, I'm just a competitor, and so there's so much variety in the play styles in college football, and the fact that we replicate it so well and make people feel that every team or every school feels like their own, that'll always be my number one thing. In terms of features, really, really excited by what we did with Road to Glory. Last year, we weren't able to create a situation where you felt like you were being recruited, and for so many kids these days, being recruited to go play D1, football, basketball, whatever it is kind of a big thing. So we now have that in the game. So, you kind of feel it ends up where you have a hat ceremony, you're picking, you could, me, I'm a big Michigan fan. A lot of people know this because I went to school there. But me, like being able to throw the Ohio State hat away before, I show up and pick my Michigan hat is always a big thing. So that's probably the biggest new feature in terms of what we shipped this year. But there's so much, like upgrades just across the entire game.
How much was the success of last year's game? It was one of the most anticipated games of all time, especially for sports. So how much did that success of last year's game help get you guys ready for this iteration of College Football 26?
I tell you one thing, like the way the team is set up, we are so excited to bring college football to our players every single year. We felt that there was so much more that we could do, but we only had so much time and we had to get 25 out. So as much as people were excited by what we delivered in 25, we're already looking at all the things that we were planning on sneaking into 26, and we spent a lot of time really thinking of it. So yeah, we're excited about 25. 26 is even more exciting for us because we're able to kind of put the cherry on top of the cake that we missed last year.
We asked Sean, how much user feedback did you guys listen to, take, and maybe what's one thing that maybe so many people were clamoring for that you guys were like, yeah, we got to get that into 26?
I think the biggest thing that people asked us for was the trophy room. Just the ability to, save and have every single trophy that you achieve throughout the game, however you play, show up so that then you can go show your buddies how deep, I was looking today, somebody was like, it's like now that you put College Football 25 down, how many hours does it say you played? And there are people who had like into 2,000 hours. 2,000 hours for a year, that's how many hours you work in a year. So I'm sitting here going, okay, like you all were really into it, but we didn't save all those things. So all those accomplishments are in your mind and not anywhere that you can actually put in front of someone. And so many people asked us to bring that back. So that's back in the game this year, and we're really happy about it.
One of the challenges of these games, the annual ones, is you're working with, in the college game, mostly similar rosters. What are some of the things that you built into the challenges you face when it comes to the atmosphere, the crowd? Right, everyone loved the first iteration. How do you make sure the second iteration isn't just the same thing?
Last year the big thing was like try to hit every school with something, but when you really broke it down, probably the top 40, 45 schools had multiple pieces of tradition. And what we went back in, it was like, okay, well, one, we need to update them. But we also, there's another, there's 40 schools, but there's 136 of them in the game. And so we wanted to expand that depth of traditions across even the smaller schools. And there were schools that were like, you didn't give us our mascot. You didn't give us any chance. So for us doing that and just being authentic to every school is super, super important. So you'll see a lot of that in this year's version.
So you were hearing from them then?
Trust me, we were. We're hearing from them today.
As far as last year, college football was big because of the NIL, and the players that opted into the game got $600. I've heard that number's gone up. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of getting the players that the fans are going to play with in the game into the game?
So, we work with our partnership at the CLC, and one of the things is we just have an easy app where our players can opt into the game every single year. As you said, last year we offered $600. I think that number's gone up to like $1,500 this year. So one, we want to share within our success to everyone. One of the things I like the most about the way our deal is structured is anybody who opts in gets to participate and have success from it. So that's one thing that I'm really happy about. But as they opt in, we ingest all of that information. We have to recreate their likenesses, their abilities, and then make sure that we process it all and get it in. It's kind of a tough process because, rosters are shifting all the way until August. And so for us, getting that information in, we really start late April to start pulling those in. And depending on how much churn, especially now at the transfer portal, how much churn is in those rosters, being accurate is one, pride of, it's a point of pride for us. But at the same time, it's also very, very difficult because the scale is pretty big.
College fandom, extremely passionate, obviously, but your developers also have their own loyalties.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell me? Do you have a story to tell at all about like some in office discussions when it comes to which teams their loyalties lie with or anything like that?
Well, pretty much every single day. So, one, there's a lot of Ohio State fans here. There's a lot of Big Ten fans here. So, like, the main presentation producer or designer for us is a Penn State grad. So between the fact that I'm Michigan, my next right-hand producer is a Michigan State person, right? And then I have the Penn State, and I have a bunch of Ohio State fans. So there's a lot of Big Ten representation in the office. It's mostly just ribbing at each other more than anything else. There's no malice in anything. But you do want to show up every single day and let them know, especially when you get your W's.
Pretty soon we will all be celebrating our W's on that game. Well, thanks for joining us here on Florida Live. Appreciate it. We will be back here again tomorrow at 2 o'clock with more Florida Live here on Fox Local and on YouTube. Have a great rest of your day.
efforts. That's
Florida Live starts now.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon live on Fox Local and on YouTube. I want to let you know what we have coming up later in the show for you. Give you a live look right now at the Kia Center in downtown Orlando. It's been a big offseason for the Orlando Magic, and that continued last night with a contract extension for star Paolo Banchero. We're going to talk about what that means, what the Magic need from Paolo now, and what the state of the Orlando Magic is at this point in the offseason as we begin looking ahead to this upcoming season. A lot of excitement ahead for the Magic. We will break all that down coming up a little bit later in the show. It is a Playbook Tuesday where we speak with Politico Florida to check the pulse of Florida politics. The race for Florida, one of Florida's U.S. Senate seats, is beginning to shape up. Some interesting fundraising numbers that we'll have for that and how that race is kind of coming together. We'll talk about that with Kimberly Leonard from Politico Florida coming up in just a little bit. In our Tampa connection, we'll break down a medical milestone at a Tampa hospital. Absolutely incredible stuff. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit and have those details coming up again about 10 minutes or so in our Tampa connection. But we begin today with a couple of stories out of Flagler County that are getting our attention. We've had the chance today to speak with Flagler Sheriff Rick Staley about this. The doormat read, "Come back with a warrant," and investigators did. There was a 5-month-long undercover investigation that led to multiple arrests on drug-related charges. Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley spoke with Fox 35's Chris Lindsay about that, and also about an interesting case where detectives in Flagler County were able to return Bitcoin that had been scammed, someone had been scammed out of. A detective was able to track that down and get that money back to its rightful owner. Flagler Sheriff Rick Staley with Chris Lindsay just a little bit ago.
So at the conclusion of a 5-month undercover investigation, we obtained search warrants for 2 homes in Palm Coast. And the one home had a doormat said, "Come back with a warrant." So we did.
And when is that your first time kind of having that sort of encounter with a suspect where maybe they're alluding to some sort of illegal behavior, and then in your case you find out that perhaps they are?
So actually, in my eight and a half years as sheriff, this is the second similar doormat that we found that they suggested we come back with a warrant, and we did in both of those cases. So they probably thought it was funny. They're probably not laughing so much now that we did in fact raid their home and make arrests and recover drugs and narcotics out of it. So, tongue in cheek, they probably thought it was funny. Well, we did too, but we had the last laugh.
Certainly. And then you said this was a and we had talked about this, that, and I just want you to reiterate this point really quickly about just because you may get away with it, so to speak, about dealing drugs for weeks or maybe even months, that doesn't mean that there aren't eyes out there and that you're working on the long game.
Correct. So, excuse me. So, we appreciate all the tips that we get from the community. They know exactly what's going on in their neighborhood and when something doesn't look right. And so that began an investigation that resulted in this arrest. So even though you may not think that we're taking, your information seriously, we always do. And we always want you to call us. It does take time to build a case that you can obtain a search warrant. Excuse me, that you can obtain it does take time for us to be able to build a case that we can get a judge and a court to then give us a search warrant for your home. And so, but we never give up. And you entice us, obviously, when you say come back with a warrant. So we did, along with our SWAT team and our undercover people. And we served the search warrant, recovered narcotics, fentanyl, methamphetamine, and made one arrest there that day.